Going live. Going live. Going live.
Welcome back, our friends and family, our peeps. Oh man, welcome back. Episode number 88.
88, man.
88. That's a good number. That's
It
a
is.
strong. That's a
It's,
strong foundation.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, me too. Well, guys, welcome back to Testing Normal. Hope you had a fantastic week. I know our week was pretty good.
Yeah.
Last night in particular was delightful. For the fans out there of MMA, last night was a pretty wild ride, man.
Last
We
night.
had a pretty big competitor, Mr. McGregor, come out and battle against a gentleman that he had actually previously fought against 8 or 7 years ago. And I was talking with some of my friends about how I had watched that fight 7 years ago, where McGregor beat, his name's Dustin Poirier, and I think it was I think he beat him. Yeah, it was like a technical knockout. Yeah, and now to see that Dustin Poirier, kind of like the underdog, yeah, coming from the bottom back and rebuild himself to now kind of be on the top of the card is pretty dope. Pretty fun fight.
Yeah. So you never introduced yourself because I had something to show you. Look
I
at
thought
this.
about that. Oh, cool. So I feel like if at this point, people are gonna figure out who we are.
I'm just assuming that we're always having new people. That's how I feel about it.
And that's perfect. I like those little things that we're putting down at the sides now. People can see who we are based on that. That's good too.
Well, no, they'll go away in a second. They do it on their own.
That's perfect. So, other cool sporting events, because I know people usually log in here to hear about some of the crazy sports stuff that's going on. But
that's the only reason people show up here.
Yeah, we're kind of like a quasi ESPN kind of now. But congratulations to Tom Brady. Tom Brady just won a football game as the lead quarterback
single-handedly on his
basically for the Buccaneers, him and Gronk. And now he's going to the Super Bowl. So there was like this big controversy: is Tom Brady going to be able to get to the Super Bowl now that he doesn't have Belichick? And it's pretty monumental. He essentially got himself back to the Super Bowl. There was a quote that was pretty fun that I read about, and it said, in football, it said, in politics, if you want a friend, get a dog. And in football, which is, I think that's a good quote. But then they said, in football, if you want to go to the Super Bowl, get a goat. And then they say, congrats, Tom Brady. So greatest of all time. Get it?
It took me way too long to figure out what goat meant.
Oh yeah.
Way too long.
Yeah. Yes. There's a lot of acronyms, I guess those are acronyms, that they're just popping out left and right, that it's hard to keep up with some of them.
They change all the time.
And they change all the time, and some of them are you're asking around, you're like, oh, that's maybe not an appropriate acronym to ask about at work. You're like, what's FML? What's FML?
Yeah, what's FML? It sounds like it's a loan you get to go to college, I think.
Is it like BFF? Is it like BFF?
It's almost like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
For real. Ooh, I can hear us through my phone.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's some.
Dude.
I just wanted to touch on some of the sports stuff. Pretty cool. Pretty crazy.
That was
sports
crazy.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Fights were amazing last
It's
night.
been a wild week. This is I think both sides of the political spectrum have been like, hey, what's going on? It's 2021. I think my favorite part of this week has been Bernie memes.
So many good ones.
I think while we're talking, I'm just gonna put random Bernie memes up. I feel like that should just happen.
Do you have the Bernie meme of McGregor, of Bernie headlocking McGregor?
Yes, I do. I'll put it up in a second. My computer's being slow.
So there's some of my favorite ones were Bernie headlocking McGregor. Basically Bernie, chilling in any setting that looks awkward with his little mittens on.
Yes, this one here. This is great.
Yes.
It's Joe Rogan.
He's doing the arm. Yeah.
Joe Rogan freaking out, and Bernie,
doing an arm, kind of an arm bar on a guy.
Bernie doing his thing.
Bernie's got some good legs on him.
Wrong one.
Oh, that's okay. We're back.
Whatever.
That's all right.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah. The political stuff's been pretty squirrely for sure. I mean, what's new though? Everything's squirrely as far as political stuff.
Seriously.
The a big thing that we do want to touch on though, that we need to just take a moment of silence. I don't know if a moment of silence, but just a moment to reflect, I guess. Mr. There he is. Headlock, Bernie
Headlock.
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 A
Oh,
moment of
so good.
silence, moment of thought, moment of reflection for Mr. Larry King. Mr. Larry
Ooh.
King died yesterday at the age of 87. The big 87. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, anybody out there that's listening could check me on this. Maybe Amador could. Um,
He likes
I
to
think
fact
he
check
got
us.
married 7 times. Is that right? I think he got married 7 times, perhaps somewhere in that ballpark. And you got to wonder, like, after the maybe the third time, it's like maybe the fourth time, you got to wonder, maybe I'm not great at this. I don't know. Maybe there's
Maybe.
something going.
I don't like
Maybe it
or
was just a series of unfortunate events.
maybe he just lives longer. I mean, we could
Yeah, 7 times. Yeah,
yeah. This
yeah.
is
He
this
or
is
he.
one of my favorites too.
Oh, that's hilarious.
They don't
Yeah, that was a
fit.
pic. What was that a picture of? So the listeners
Why
can
does he
tell.
keep putting that up? Dumb.
That was a picture of OJ holding the mittens that Bernie had on.
Yeah.
Basically, kind of funny. Yeah, but so old Lair King, old LK is what I used to call him.
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah. He was Brooklyn bred dude. Let's see. He'd been in like media and you know hosting, whether it was a radio broadcasting or TV, for over 50 years. He did die from COVID. Actually, he got sick.
Really?
One of his caretakers was sick, or one of his like the people that come into his house and help him
Right.
out, and they were sick, and then he started getting sick and had to go to the
Mm.
hospital and couldn't recover. The old 8-7 man, look out! Ooh, that's a pretty pic. We've been there.
See, do you see him there? Do you see him?
No, it's not big enough for me.
Right here.
That's what she said. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Good
Uh,
times.
yeah. So yeah, shout out to Mr. LK wherever he's at, man. Hope his family's doing good.
That guy interviewed a
Great.
lot of people on
Dude, he
both
did.
sides. Oh, Amador answered our
I love it.
question
All right, how many times was Larry King married?
8 times.
Dang. He must have had some like ironclad prenups going on there. Because any man that's or woman that's married 8 times, if
Seriously.
they didn't get married or have prenups that many times, you would not have any
Maybe
wealth.
he's the one that married up. I
Financially,
mean,
maybe.
maybe.
8 times though, that would be a pretty impressive feat.
Yeah.
8 times. I don't know. Um,
Yeah. Have you seen any of these videos of these riots going on like that started up in Portland again?
yeah, I've seen a couple. I've seen a couple little
It's
ones.
I don't
And
yeah.
now they're aren't the riots in Portland protesting? What are they protesting? They were against something. I don't even
Now
remember.
they're just saying like it doesn't matter, Biden's not what we wanted. Um it's
Are they affiliating with a specific group?
whoa. No. That's the thing. They're not like here's them last night. Um they're facing off the all of them said like basically it was like the umbrellas versus the pepper and it's crazy. The
Wait, who has the umbrellas?
the bad guys or
The bad
whatever.
guys.
Yeah. What do you want to say? Like here's the thing. I'm super for like peacefully protesting
Mhm.
and having been in DC and all that like I think that's fine. Like it's totally fine to be that way, but to be peaceful. But with this, like here's some of the ICE people coming out because they were attacking the ICE building and arresting someone, and they're standing there with like fire extinguishers with
Well,
pepper spray.
but just for clarification, there was definitely a lot of stuff in DC that was not peaceful. So both
No, no, no,
sides
no. I'm
had
saying I'm
done
saying if it was
peaceful.
peaceful, but most people were peaceful there. I wasn't for the people who weren't peaceful. That's what I was trying to say. Sorry,
Oh,
I
okay.
was unclear. Like, but I would say that for both sides. Like, you need to remain peaceful I mean, there's
Not gonna
definitely
happen.
like in my opinion, there's a time to fight for things, obviously, but it's not now. It's not for
Yeah, the
like
fighting is an interesting thing. I mean, obviously, everybody can have their own opinions on that, and I think you and I would have varying opinions for sure. But
I think we would have
the
similar opinions because there's definitely time to war. Um,
there's time to war, but I think within your own country, I think it's
here's them
violence
the
begets
pepper
violence.
balls versus the umbrellas. This beginning part right here. Look at this. Gunk,
How
gunk,
do they all
gunk.
have the same black umbrellas?
I don't know. They got a good deal on them at Costco,
They got a
probably.
good deal. Someone's like distributing umbrellas en masse right now, man.
Yeah,
Okay,
crazy.
so the protests in Portland's are a major bummer, but dude, uh, really cool thing that I think everybody should be kind of uplifting and encouraged by, that I read about this week. You hear what's going on in the UK with Hong Kong?
I have not. I mean, I've heard little bits, but I haven't followed it too closely. I think Hong Kong's something that we should all be talking about because
Yeah.
it kind of sets the precedence for the world.
So super cool, super cool. Yes, I totally agree. Some of the crazy stuff going on in Hong Kong is a concerning trend that could be in other areas. But the UK originally was kind of controversial, right? Because the UK had colonized Hong Kong and then gave it when it was considered under China part of their territory,
Right.
and then they gave it back to China over a period of 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people of Hong Kong are like, "Hey, this is not our law. We don't want them ruling us. We don't agree with this type of communism." But the UK just recently released a statement saying that they were going to give 5.4 million new visas to Hong Kong residents.
Whoa.
70%, basically 70% of the Hong Kong population, the UK was going to give privileges to get a visa and to come live as residents in the UK. I was like, what a amazing, like, humanitarian move, and I think a kind of a responsible move on the UK's part,
Right.
since they knew that they were basically
Well, they had
denying
control, right?
people.
Or like they were under their British rule.
They were
They were.
for a period of time.
And they still
Um,
technically are, right? I mean,
no, 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 not anymore.
okay.
The UK has no jurisdiction in
But it
Hong Kong
expired
anymore.
sooner than it was supposed to. Like,
No, it actually they delayed it,
okay.
and then they allowed Hong Kong to somewhat rule themselves while China slowly gained political and governmental privileges back. And now it's to the point where essentially China is basically ruling Hong Kong, but the UK said, "Hey, we kind of screwed the people of Hong Kong over, so we're going to let them basically come live in the UK if they want to." I was like, "Dude, that is so respectable."
If they can get there, like, how do they, like,
Yeah,
are they
mostly like bamboo boats
bamboo
and
boats?
and just teasing, I don't know. But I really respect that UK move, and that protects a lot of the rights of the people of Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really happy to see that kind of positive news this week, on the people of uh, for the people of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And
It needs to
and,
keep
and
trending that direction
yeah, and
for
it might not be they're offering basically about 70% of the Hong Kong population those rights, but
mm-hmm.
they don't know if that many people will take up the citizenship in the
That'd
UK
be hard.
or
I
not.
mean, that'd be like right now, imagine if certain states were locked down more than they were, they went into military law and they're like, well, if you don't like it, then you can move. It's like you can't just how do you up and move your family from your area? I've thought about that.
Yeah.
Like, do you just stay there or do you just fight to make it better? Like, do you stay and like for the long haul push
Right.
to push to make it better? Because I mean, if we're talking like things to war about, I think those
Yeah.
people are probably there.
Civil liberties are
And
really, really being stolen from the
but
people
how
of
do you
Hong Kong.
stand up without like multiple countries coming in and saying something to
Right.
that big of a regime?
Well, and say what you want about China, there's plenty to have controversy over, especially looking at some of the concentration camps for
This
the
is a
the
good
Uyghur the
question.
Uyghur people. Oh, what do you got?
Amador, it's on topic. Do you think it's maybe just a political move, knowing that most of the people likely can't do it? It's a good question.
It's a
Um,
great question.
I don't know. I know that we've, as a if you take us as a country as an example, like we've done things like that to politically position ourselves. I think a lot of the stuff that we're seeing happen in our own country right now are just to politically position people where they want to be.
I think
Um,
it could be a political move, but I think it also is somewhat of a humanitarian move. I think it depends on how much resources the UK puts in to helping those people establish residency in their country. Would
right,
will show us how much is a political versus actually a humanitarian move.
right. Here's his next
So like
question: Is there a time limit on when they can apply? It's another great question.
So they said it was supposed to be over. They're giving them over the next 5 years.
Okay,
So they were giving them essentially 5 years of time, and they said that Britain doesn't know, but they estimated that about maybe they said it could be as low as 300,000 that take them up on it,
right.
but
That's still a lot of
they're
people.
allowing for up to 5.4 million.
Holy crap!
Um,
Yeah, that's a lot.
and so this is the two spectrums. Great Britain is knowing that only the really low socioeconomic or the really high socioeconomic people can afford it. So then
Mm-hmm.
they would get all the essentially, they bring a lot of wealth to their country if
Right.
they bring those high socioeconomic status individuals over. But if Britain says, "Hey, we're going to create programs to afford these people jobs. We're going to allow for easy transitions. Like if you have established, as a surgeon in Hong Kong, we're not going to make you go through all the new residency and everything like that. We're going to allow you to practice in the UK." And that's a extreme example, but if they honored certain credentialing, then it would be easier for people to leave their jobs and start a new job in that area as
Mm.
well. Um, so yeah, I think stuff is still to be seen, but it's encouraging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be interesting. I know that like that's a huge like immigration thing that they're putting up, and I know that that's been a hot topic here, especially with like I don't know if you saw like the videos and stuff of the people like running towards millions of people basically running towards our border, thinking that Biden was just going to let them in, and then they put out a notice saying no, no, don't come yet. Like, um, it's
Mostly Canadians.
I yeah, they don't like us. Well, some of them do. But
Not with the pipeline situation.
no, that's true. I was gonna ask you about that. What do you think about
Yeah.
that? Because I did some. You and I talked about it a little bit last night, and I did a little bit more digging on some stuff that I had. That's some interesting perspectives based
Well,
on
I think we should do a little background so people can know kind of a little bit what's going on.
yeah.
So it, it's the Keystone pipeline.
This is so there is
Um,
already a Keystone. This was the Keystone XL pipeline, so it's a bigger pipe. We already have
right.
one.
But there's an original exactly. So there's a current existing Keystone pipeline that allows for a large amount of oil to go from Canada down into the United States, and I
Hmm.
don't think it
To the
goes the opposite
refineries.
direction.
No, it does not.
Yeah.
It goes to our refineries. I think some of them are in Arizona. I think that's where it goes. I can pull up a map. You keep talking. Keep explaining.
So there's already a pre-existing pipeline there. They wanted to build a larger pipeline. However, during the latter end of the Obama administration, there was a pipeline essentially that was being built that's of larger diameter and in a different location as well, to the
Here we
existing
go.
pipe. And there was controversy because they were saying it was going through a lot of Native American land, um, or in close proximity. And so those individuals that lived on that Native American land were concerned that, hey, are we going to risk pollution on our land? We've already been screwed over historically countless times. You're not going to screw us over again. Makes sense. Um, but during the Trump administration had said, yes, continue construction back on this pipeline. And it did give thousands of people jobs. And the kind of the bigger infrastructure, kind of some might consider advantage of it, is it did allow for, I guess you could say, a form of protection as far as if one pipeline wasn't functioning, they would have another source of oil to be able to come in to the country. And everybody has their own opinions about you know our reliance on oil. Um, but regardless whether we like it or not, everywhere in the United States, especially industrial, larger manufacturing facilities, hospitals, everywhere still requires the use of oil. We don't have infrastructure for not having oil, whether it's crude or refined at this point.
Well,
Um,
here's something that was interesting just to kind of step in there because you had said something. I thought this too.
Mhm.
And so I thought, well, the tribes didn't like it. I think that was wrongly reported because now there was a tweet that I saw from them, that a statement that they made, and then I'll put this up now. This is a document they put out basically saying the Ute Indian tribe of the reservation respectfully requests that you immediately amend order to provide for an exception for energy permits and approvals on Indian lands. Your order is a direct attack on our economy, sovereignty, and our right to self-determination. Indian lands are not federal public lands. Any action or lands and interests can only be taken after effective tribal. So they are saying you're hurting our income. Like this is something that they were doing to actually bring in money and lease that land, and they're being now hurt
Mhm.
from that, which is I saw from Arizona too. They put up, and I'll put it in our show notes, but they basically said, um, "You're this is most of our funding for schools comes through our oil industry, and we don't know what we're going to do now because because of
Mm.
they were counting on that as an increased income, and so essentially by doing that, we either a have to ship it in from out of country, or they're going to just drive it. Like they're
Right.
still going to
Drive
burn
it.
oil to
Yeah.
drive it. And that's more dangerous because there's more accidents that happen from that. And you're cutting off this leasing income and the like it being more efficient to get to where it's going. So you're hurting basically everyone along the way. And I just,
Yeah, it's a I see both sides of it because I do think that obviously that one letter doesn't speak for every single Native American
but it's
and or
coming, I
and
no, no,
or
no, but it's
tribe.
coming from their tribe, their business committee. Like they had to vote to put that up.
Well, and to be fair, I think everyone can recognize that a governmental body doesn't necessarily reflect the
Well, and
population
that's
all the
where
time,
like
right?
I would say I think we do need to get away from fossil fuels, but we can't yet. And
Right.
so we can't it the
Well,
best way in my opinion for the to get away from it is to take away the incentive to use oil, because we're not going to use less oil because of not doing the pipeline. We're not.
mm.
Like we'll probably increase our use of oil after this pipeline's done.
What do you
But
see
we're
as
going
a
to
good way of disincentivizing the use of oil?
I think setting sunsets for like some of the tax, like the credits and the way that we pay towards making oil cheaper, like ramp that back so, as the technologies are growing. And even
Mhm.
you even hear people like Elon Musk who's saying like, hey, there are some that we need to use. He wants to use natural gas for some of his stuff in Texas. He put out a thing this week that said, I'll pay $100 million for the best tech for picking up excess carbon out of the atmosphere, because he wants to do his part to help clean up, but he understands there is cheap clean energy, and a
Yeah,
lot
that
of our
was
a lot of our
pretty
states don't have access to the sun. So what do you do, like a country that has sun all the time? It's one thing to tell them to use solar, especially with some of the technologies we're doing now. You do that in Oregon, we're going to be doing blackouts. Like you
man. Oregon,
so
though, definitely has plenty of other options as far as not oil potential. I mean, there's research that needs to be done, but wave energy is a pretty cool one that I've seen a lot of research on. Obviously, we have hydroponic,
that's a little different.
um, hy, hy, hydro hydropower. I don't know if
Hydroelectric,
there's a hydroelectric,
like
electric.
dams.
Yeah, wind power. The
Yeah,
gorge.
and
Oh my
those are all
gosh.
great. It's just we're not there yet to have
Yeah.
completely replaced them. And so to stop this, and it's going to make it less efficient. Like I said, if we were all of a sudden going to be if we knew we were going to be using less oil, totally. That I think it was a waste to put this in. But if it's making it safer to transport, more efficient, and there's less waste along the way, because I mean they put up they're like, "Okay, yeah, we're okay. You start doing this over in the Middle East, and BT dubs, we're also going to start sending more troops there and starting another war." So we just spent 4 years with Trump not starting any wars, and Biden essentially just started Syria's war right up where it left off when Obama left office.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know if I would say Biden's starting another war. I think that's a pretty
He just
pre.
started shipping
That's
troops
a
there, and there's videos of them with motorcades starting to drive right where they left off.
right. But I don't think you can say he's starting a war right now. I think that's a pretty preemptive
It's a
statement there.
hostile move to put people back there when we weren't didn't need to be there. And
Well,
it's not just it's not just
I don't
him,
know enough
it's,
about that
and
to say.
I wouldn't say it's Obama. I would say they're continuing on what Trump Jr. did. And I think that they were all war presidents, and they did it over oil. I mean, that's, if you go look at
Mhm.
people that really know their stuff, like go look at like Joel Salatin, old guy that like is wants to be efficient and wants to work and make things local, and he's a farmer and all that kind of stuff. He says, if you want to know the best way to conserve energy and not use oil, it's this: buy local and don't.
Mhm.
And if we do that and we don't do these
Yeah.
giant factories and burn up oil, doing these gross things, and we do it grass fed, natural, and he'll show you how to do it. You can come to his farm and
You're
intern
talking
with
about
him.
for food?
Yeah,
Is that what
but in
you're
that,
talking about?
he even says, he's this like 80-year-old guy. He says, I believe in what I'm doing. I cut down on wars because now we don't fight on wars on oil. And when we made ourselves energy independent with oil, now we don't have to worry about fighting to get oil from other places. Why would we go back to that? It makes no
So,
logical sense because we
in
have to
my
get it
head,
somewhere.
I guess if oil is a finite resource, this is what I kinda see as in the background. Could be a thing is utilize other places, and this is, a bit of
Yeah.
a unfortunate thought process, but I
Right.
think it could be a potential thought process is if oil is a finite resource, perhaps from the governmental standpoint, they know exactly how much oil there is in some, rough estimate. Let's use other countries' oil first before we use our resource. And that could be an underlying tone as well. I'm not saying it's good or anything
Yeah, I
like
don't
that,
I
but I'm
don't
saying that could be a possibility.
but the thing is like, if you're shipping it the whole time, then we don't we how much are we spending to have people like, we just drew back as many more troops than we ever have before. We don't need to send more back to Syria. We don't need to do
I'm
that.
and I think you and well, I would definitely agree that I am not for having any more military presence in other countries. I don't know if that's called a um, more of a nationalist approach. I do think that the military approach in other countries and even the spending in other countries isn't the best approach in my opinion.
I think there's
Um,
times to do it. And
but
and
say,
but there's times not to. And right now we
what
don't
I
need
would
to.
say real quick though with Canada, Justin Trudeau actually um, was actually a proponent of
Mhm.
keeping the pipeline active,
Yes.
and keeping it being constructed. So it was interesting to see that the Canadian I don't know if they're called presidents, prime minister, is that what
Mhm.
they're called?
Yeah, prime minister.
Was hoping and really kind of trying to convince Biden not to shut that pipeline down.
But then he
So it
he
was
he
interesting to see that.
backpedaled on that and said it's okay, guys. He just shoulder shrugged it off. He just put out a statement yesterday, like you and I were talking about that. The thing that's sad is I'm seeing stories. I'm seeing people tweet about it. I'm seeing people show testimony of it, and it's estimated that between 52 and 70,000 jobs are going to be lost due to that during a pandemic.
And that's interesting how you talked about um, not kind of relying on other countries' natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
I really, 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 after this pandemic, it has been, if this doesn't wake our country up, then it's our fault as far as recognizing the need to rely on ourselves for certain manufacturing aspects. And that would bring an enormous amount of jobs back to our country. Even if it increases the cost of those resources to a point, it's well worth the safety that we would get from it. So, real quick before that comment, would be like uh, medical supplies. Like, I think it's 90% of our medication is not produced.
Right.
Of our pills are not produced in the United States.
Right.
Most of them in China, most of them in India, out of our country. So medical supplies, medications, actual like equipment, even automotive equipment. Like if we could bring infrastructure back and manufacturing back, that is a form of protection in and of itself.
Well, it's how we get out of debt. So this is
Yeah,
exactly what you were just saying. That's why I put the comment up. Is
yeah.
Amador said that's exactly what's been happening. We take from other oil-rich countries, use it up, and then we'll be in control of the oil. So it's a bit of a selfish approach. I totally get it if we were trying to be like domineering or whatever, but that also, when we do that, that starts wars. And I think that if you want to take it a little bit further, and maybe I hold a different view on this than you do, is that you're now funding your potential enemies. So
Yeah.
so we're
Well,
when if we say things like we don't believe in child labor and we don't believe in slave labor, well, the number one export of China is slave labor. they make our stuff by putting it on the backs of their own people.
Well,
And
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 actually,
then we're
not
paying
even
them. We're paying
necessarily.
them to be more powerful.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the really sketchy thing, and I might sound like a broken record, but they're doing that with the Uyghurs. They literally have concentration camps
Hmm.
for the Uyghur population, the Muslim population, and they're called re-education camps.
Yep.
And they literally have hundreds of thousands. I don't want to say for sure if it's millions, but I know it's at least hundreds of thousands of people in concentration camps right now. And the world, like, this is not on our news every single day.
Right.
It should be. Like, I can't
Yeah.
believe how
If there's
horrible that
things that
situation
I
is,
mean,
and nobody's
I will be
recognizing it.
honest. If there's things that we should be fighting wars over, that would be it.
Yeah,
Is when
I mean the
there's
total injustice of an entire ethnic group. I'm not exactly sure if
it's
they're
not, well,
what they
it
would
could
qualify
be some
as.
ethnicity, but it would technically be over religion, which
Well, yeah, and yeah, but they were. I don't know if they're more of them are in the Mongolia area, the border of China. Anyways, yeah, that's a horrible kind of situation going on that I would want to advocate against.
well, and that's the
Anywho.
thing is if that's the case, I mean, if you say you find yourself in $50,000 of debt, I mean, there's plenty of people in the United States that are in that category, or something. If it's not for school, a house,
Well,
whatever.
if you have
Like,
a house, yeah,
but
you're in
if it's
actually.
like you're finding yourself in like it's not an asset that you have. Like
Mm,
if you have house debt, you could sell the house, but like if it's just like credit card debt or whatever, the way that you get out of that, besides just like caving and filing bankruptcy if you can, is to work more or work better or work more efficiently. And so if you apply that on a large scale, we as a country need to do that. Like we need to bring the work here, do the work here, produce and export. That's what we used to do. That's why we were the richest country. That's why we became the most powerful country. And then all of a sudden, we started shipping it. We shipped that portion of things and the innovation outside, even in our education. Like we have people come here from other countries that get educated and then they go back, and we lose that intellect. Pompeo had a great talk at Georgia, I think it was Georgia Tech or somewhere in Georgia, just a few months ago, where he was talking about how if we do that, if we educate people, that's great. They should stay here they should be required to stay here as a part of that scholarship as a certain amount of time, so that we, as a country, because we've now, in some part paid part of that bill, that we maintain that intellectual property and value here instead of shipping it away. Um, and
yeah.
I think there's something to be said for that. That's why we're a country that's runs in a deficit all the time and hasn't, it's just gonna, it's this bubble that's just waiting to burst. And I hope to
Well,
God that we.
I had hoped, and I still hope that there is, and this is where it gets a little bit of a kind of sticky area when you consider, like, a free market and everything, as far as government control over the free market and
Hmm.
dictating where manufacturing, whether a company can manufacture something in another country or whether the government says no, you have to
Right.
make it here, which feels a little sticky to me. Um, but I think when it's a resource that is deemed uh, uh, what would you what would be the right word? A resource that's deemed necessary or mm, what's the name of the workers, like when they're like the workers
Oh,
in the United
essential.
States? Essential,
Yeah.
essential resource. There you go. Thank you. Um, if
I
it's an essential resource, then I think, or commodity, I think
mhm.
I think that should be maybe considered to as a necessary production in the states.
I think it's more simple than that. I'm all about, like, let's not make more rules. We already have enough and they don't work. It's like gun laws. Like there's already rules saying people can't go shoot people. There's already rules saying that felons shouldn't. There's already rules that, like, you don't make more to more police the people that are already following rules. You have to go back to the simplicity of what is already there. And so, would you work with a country or allow your people to work with a country who is enslaving people in concentration camps? Would we have worked with Nazi Germany? Would we have allowed people to do business and trade with with a country that's putting people in concentration camps? I think historically the answer has been no. And that's not a regulate that company. It's saying, hey, we don't do business or trade with tyrants. We just don't. And we have been. And so we've been like essentially we're funding that slavery and those concentration camps as a country by still doing trade with them.
Yeah, I think that's a situation where our country is in a our backs against the wall a little bit because we haven't we if we've put ourselves in such a place where we are so dependent on that country and those resources that they provide at the
Hmm.
costs that they provide it, that if we instantly deprived ourselves of those resources,
Oh yeah.
our economy would crash.
No, 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 for sure. But I think I guess it's the same approach as the whole pipeline thing. Do you cancel the pipeline? Well, we're going to keep using oil. It's going to be more expensive if we don't do it, so we should, but we should still work our way at
Agreed.
getting out to other things. So with this,
Right. Build
there's
it up.
other places and tell companies, by XYZ time, we're going to be out of doing business with this country until they reverse these things. You know,
Mm,
it's
yeah.
and then you don't have to go to war. It probably would cause a war because you see
It
like
might. That's the
we see
thing,
like
right?
with
Yeah.
Australia, like Google's like, hey, we're gonna shut off Google if you don't not pass this law, um, and so there's these companies and
Well, and what was it that China? What was it the leader of China said to Australia?
yeah,
He was like,
if you make us the enemy,
if
we
you
will
want to
become
make
the
us an
enemy.
enemy, yeah, if you want to
Yeah,
make us
and it
out to
would,
be an
but
enemy,
at the
we will be
same
your enemy.
time, it would be very odd if that happened for us to continue to. It's like go back to World War II. Would we continue to fund Germany? No, we wouldn't. It's illogical. It's stupid. You don't fund your enemy in a war. So would China go to war? Would they with all the people
Well,
that all of a
actually,
sudden they have no money?
before we were technically at war with Germany, and before technically, before there was technically World War II taking place,
Hmm.
we still were doing active
Yes,
trading with Germany.
absolutely. But then after it started, actively
Right.
no.
Yeah.
And once we knew, and yeah. So why not? If we see that going on, why wouldn't we put a plan in place to weed our way out of there?
I only hope they. I mean,
Um,
yeah, I'm
I mean,
full
it
heart of
would just it to
full-heartedly
me it
for
just
it.
makes logical sense, which means that they're probably not thinking about that. But I can seriously hope. The other thing that so here's another thing that being as someone like everything out there. I spent 1 year in the military, and then I don't know if you saw, but these 5,000 people that were kicked out of the Capitol that were with National Guard and stuck in a car garage, like essentially a parking
Uh-huh.
garage. Um, they've now since been let out. I don't I don't understand what's going on. I guess that's about as far as I have to talk about that because it
Oh,
angers
okay.
me so much. It's like I don't understand what
The
is like,
disrespect,
yeah, the
you're saying?
disrespect. You
Yeah.
called these people in because you said, and I think we can all agree now nothing happened, um that they called these people in and then threw them to the curb. And it was literally it was one Democrat congressman that complained that they were there,
Yeah.
and then they put them into a
Well,
garage.
and to Biden's credit, he said it was a wrong thing and he called. I do like that he called. I don't know if it's the head general or whomever it is of the National Guard.
Yeah,
He
it took
called
two
and said, "Hey,
days
that was totally wrong."
it
Yeah,
took
but
two
he's he's
days
he's he's an old dude. He takes some time.
Yeah,
He
exactly,
he
he's
called
too old.
specifically to the general.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a general or whoever
I
it
gotta
is.
tell you,
Whoever's
the
the head.
news on
Who
that guy.
who is the head of the National Guard? Is it a general?
Well,
That's like
each state would have their own because they're technically an organized militia. So
okay, so
like
there's not like one
Texas said their
overarching
governor
general.
came out and said, "Bring them back. I'm done. I'm if they're going to disrespect our people like that, we're not sending them again." And
Well,
then
wasn't this Texas?
there was another general that said, "I think next time when they
Yeah.
call, I'm just going to let it go to voicemail."
There was 2 states that were called. I don't know
Yeah.
what the
And
second
they
one
should
was.
have like immediately. Well, what's funny is Trump put up the people that didn't have rooms in his hotel. He just said they can go there. he as soon as he found out, he said, "Yeah, open up our DC hotel and let them in."
I wonder
Which
how many
is
actually went there
they had
though.
pictures. They had like tons of law enforcement and National Guard that were there. They had picture and video of it. It's pretty crazy.
The I wanted to see here. if no, that's not. I was looking at the Keystone thing. I was trying to see how much more oil it would deliver, but I wanted to see what the impact would be as far as how much it would deliver difference, but I can't find it right now. Anyways, yeah, so that's pretty crazy. What else in this week has been going on? I don't
Ooh,
think that's.
did you? I sent you the picture of Tim Pool's um, Teespring picture, right? I haven't read any more of what he did, but essentially, if people don't know who Tim Pool is, he talks about stuff. He's kind of like a Joe Rogan with a hat on. Um,
Oh, he's like a big conspiracy theorist, dude, right?
yeah. He's been on Joe Rogan before,
He's
but
like a wild
oh
conspiracy
yeah,
theorist
yeah.
all the
Yeah.
time. Like
But
like like
he had a
too
picture that says like a
too crazy.
gorilla, and it shipped out. So I'll put up a picture of it. It was put up in a certain way, uploaded it to Teespring, which is like a an online, you make your t-shirts and they send them out to your fans when they buy them or something like that. And it's a gorilla, and it just says like a gorilla on the front of the shirt. It's like a gray shirt with this gorilla on it. And when it shipped out, where is it? Dang it. I have a hard time finding it.
Yeah. This is a
Um,
really bummer one.
it is like
I,
ridiculous.
I like yeah.
I
Basically,
here it is. So it the gorilla on the left is just a gorilla, and then it like they black faced a gorilla,
well,
and
but here's what's weird about it. I don't know when we're looking at these two photos. The entire photos there was something wrong with it cuz look at the hands. The hands are a different
they're
color.
white.
Right.
Yes.
The ears the ears have like a
Mm-hmm.
weird white thing
Yeah.
to it.
So
So it's like they
the
they
one on the
totally
left is
jacked
the
the entire
picture that
picture
they
up.
uploaded to the website. The one on the right is someone's shirt that got shipped to them. So
It's like they inverted
you
it
can
or
see they're
something.
wearing it. No, because the teeth
Yeah.
didn't invert. The teeth stayed that way. Someone
Right.
edited this photo.
Certain things inverted.
Yes, only certain things. Boom, boom, boom. He dropped them. He dropped Teespring, and
Good.
they, as far as I've found, have not had any response to it yet. But he would be someone, that they would potentially
Oh,
go
that'd be the
after.
worst person to do that to, though, because he's like
Oh,
the
he's gonna go
epitome
after
of someone
them.
that's gonna
He's
run after that.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, one thing with Tim Pool that I was a little disappointed with, and I don't know if anybody listened to this episode. There's an episode where Tim Pool talks with the CEO of Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
Jack Dorsey,
Yeah.
right? And he's on Joe Rogan with Jack Dorsey. So it's Tim Pool, Joe Rogan, Jack Dorsey, and Jack Dorsey's like, I don't know, COO or something along those lines.
Usually
I'm not
comes
sure
with an
what she was.
entourage.
Yeah, anyhow, he challenged Jack Dorsey on some controversial kind of things as far as screening individuals and canceling certain individuals. But he didn't really push that hard, and I was a little surprised because when he's by himself, he's very aggressive, but he was very kind of reserved during that interview. So I was kind of disappointed in him.
Yeah. Danny brings up something. I would be honest. I've thought about this. It's all a big show for the media. Republicans are bad and dangerous. It's definitely out there right now. Is politically jaded. I think on both sides. I would say on both sides.
You
Um,
would see on you would see on politically snowflake, hypersensitive liberals on the other side too. I mean,
yeah. I will
it goes
say
both ways.
I will say it is slightly different. Because I'm not out there. Like, I haven't had a severed head of Joe Biden posted, and I haven't seen anyone do something that crazy. So there were crazier things that people did against Trump than they did against Biden.
And actually, with Kathy though, she did get taken down for a while.
Well, she still has the picture up
Yeah,
now with video.
no, she's back, but she was taken down for a while.
I don't know.
And I think that I don't know, but I wonder if they'll bring Trump back.
I don't know. I don't know if he wants to.
Who knows?
I
Who
think he'll
knows?
stand. What he's gonna do is he's gonna pick a company and blow them up, like make them big, and
He's
that's
probably going to ask for a part of the company though before he does that
I
because he's want
doubt
to
it.
make.
I
He's like,
doubt
let's
it.
make a deal.
Because I don't think he would want it to be. Um, I don't think he would want to have any hand in it because that's
Business
something
move.
they could use against him should he choose to run again in 2024. Like they could, it would just be bad. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not saying he wouldn't do it. I'm just saying
yeah. I wouldn't be
if
surprised.
I was his advisor, I would say don't take a monetary portion of it, but say this is a website where speech will be regulated as free, um,
Yeah,
and then just leave it because you don't need that.
dude.
So
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
no, that was the end of what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something that was really interesting, and there's been some actually good conversations on like the Daily and Up First. Ezra Klein's a guy that
Hmm.
has a pretty interesting podcast that I enjoy listening to every now and then as well. But there's been some interesting developments and people on both sides of the spectrum. Unfortunately, there's only two sides, which bugs me. But um, on the two main sides of the spectrum are concerned about the potential risks of freedom of speech
Yeah.
and or suppression in certain areas where it might not it might be taking advantage of individuals.
Hmm.
But Poland did a really interesting thing, wasn't it? Poland,
Yeah, actually,
right?
I have a little snippet, and I have a really good article that I want. If there's no article you've ever read from us, I want you to go read this one because it's a really good interview with, I don't know if it's a president or whoever the ruler is, but I want to read a section if you're done talking, but if you're not, then keep saying what you're going to say. Um, that he put out that I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been trying to say, and I just haven't been able to articulate it well.
The president of Poland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, it's an opinion
Um,
piece, but
so I'll just say a real quick synopsis of just a very, very, very. I'm not going to go in a ton of detail, but
yeah.
I'll just say what it is, and then you can read it. So
Yep.
essentially, Poland recently had elections coming up, and they were concerned about the influence of eh, outside the outside influences that social media can place on their elections.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they completely banned the social media platforms from the countries during the time of election, or if they just limited to them. But there was a significant restriction on social media platforms during the election time.
Right. They blocked them. And because they said they made a statement saying you're meddling in our elections, and we're just very bold with what they said. But there's three sections I'll read real quick. It's real quick. It's like three different paragraphs, but they're that's a long thing, and these were like his major points that I was like, this makes so much sense based on the conversation that we had last week, which I thought was great. And I want to point out to people, and you can speak for yourself if you want. Neither one of us was mad at each other, and we had a great time and a great chat afterwards, but both of our wives thought that we were like going to kill each
Oh,
other.
Haley
And
thought that too.
well, I don't know if she did. She kind of questioned it a little bit. um and then I guess like there were some other people that said some things like, no, here's the thing, guys, this podcast, we're about we are about free speech. Like, ideas are
And
good
challenging
and
each other.
challenging, and the way to get to good ideas is to continue to search for the truth, because the truth is the way that you get there. It's not through canceling people, which is
Well,
exactly what.
and to challenge each other's thought processes,
Yeah, and
like
figure out perspectives.
and opinions.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
which we do more than just this podcast. But anyway,
Real
so
quick
so
for Danny Miller
yes, what did he
made a
say?
comment asking if I had listened to Jimmy Dore.
Yeah,
Uh, Jimmy Dore, I have listened to the Jimmy Dore on JRE. It was fascinating. Also, he's a really funny comedian. So anybody out there who wants a
Jimmy
fun
Dore.
comedian, check out Jimmy Dore.
So,
Okay,
so here's
go
from
for
that
it.
article, and then I'm curious your thoughts on this because it's similar to what we were talking about last night. At its best, the internet is a decentralized form provided an online speaker's corner. So that's in the beginning. At its best, the internet was decentralized and provided an online speaker's corner, making it truly democratizing force. The early internet gave equal access to those wishing to talk, exchange, discuss, and debate their views. As we have increasingly shifted our political debates into the online realm, however, we have digitized all our speech. Big tech companies arrested the democratization of speech, instead privatizing and centralizing it. Whether we like it or not, these tech companies have a monopoly on the online forum, or at least on a large segment of it. Sadly, for years, we have all been told that private companies are entitled to act as they please. If you don't like our social network, just build your own, goes the well worn quip. But the rapid expulsion of Parler has finished off this argument once and for all, with Amazon refusing to host Parler and Apple and Google removing the app from their app stores. Big tech killed the competition before it could even get a meaningful takeoff. There is a compelling argument to be made that social media giants are actually natural monopolies, while the highest degree of efficiency is perhaps sometimes achieved under one operator in a given marketplace. It is essential that such sole operators be properly regulated. Viewing social media as a public utility, we acknowledge that it has become an essential communication tool, just as electric, water, and phone utilities operate in the public interest and with democratically accountable oversight. Which I thought was like, I was like, oh, that kind of pegs it a little bit, because when people are getting removed from these areas and that's where they communicate with their kids' schools, or they communicate with a business, or that's where they do their work, or that's where they organize things. It's like you cannot allow people to, they're saying essentially this would be like cutting off someone's electricity, cutting off someone's phone, and telling them that you don't like them. And allowing it to be done that way is now creating a social monopoly, because otherwise what you're going to do is you're going to divide people into these groups. If those places exist, like with Parler, they immediately attacked them, and we know from emails that they were just trying to figure out if the president was going there. And now we have this skiff, because the best thing, like we were talking about before, is that if all ideas are in one space, otherwise you have these echo chambers of people, and you're not getting the whole picture. And you can mute people individually and whatever, but let that happen at an individual level, rather than a company saying, sorry, I don't like what you said, you can't talk about that here.
So was that, and that quote was from the president of Poland?
It was,
Is that who you said?
I believe, yeah, yeah, they're all in quotes. So yeah, I'm looking at the
Okay.
article right now just to make sure. But
I think what he's saying makes a lot of sense, and I would agree with 90% of it.
yeah.
The 10%, I guess, where I would have question, is I think that regulation from a governmental perspective,
Hmm.
to prevent monopolies is important, especially in the marketplace.
Right.
Um, but I think that there's levels of government control, and I think when you look at, I think where it kind of crossed the line from my perspective, and for everybody out there, a lot of the stuff we say, I don't know a lot of stuff. Okay, I'm pretty stupid, so these are just a basic dude's opinion, essentially, and some of it
I'm
is even
pretty
comedic,
stupid.
so we can get away with stuff because I'm technically a comedian. But
Yeah, whatever, Joe.
but um but where I think it crossed the line essentially is with the Amazon servers, restricting individuals from then uploading and having their own platforms. That's where it crosses the line. I am okay with the individual company dictating who uses their products to a degree,
Hmm.
but when it's a company that is responsible not necessarily for releasing products
Hmm.
on a social media platform themselves, but more for hosting, that's where I feel like there's a line that was crossed.
Yeah, I would agree. That's where it went there really, really fast. And that, I think that the problem with that is they've created these spaces, and what he's saying is essentially you've digitized the public forum. And now that if you they were saying from a country's perspective, it's dangerous when you start to control what that forum looks like, because now you have too much control, which is why they blocked them.
Yeah,
Because they said now you're controlling the rhetoric, and now you are meddling in our politics and what we're doing. And so, do they want to be, do you want to operate here or not? So if you're not going to operate in a free way that's fair to everybody, then you're done. They cut them off. So, and that's, I, I don't think we should tell them how to run their company, but I think that we should say, hey, we have a law about free speech, and if that's why you're removing people, then you broke the law.
right.
If they're being harassing, absolutely mute them, like detain them on, give them Twitter jail or whatever. Still allow them to see things, maybe, like, because if they need to see communications from their parents or whatever, but block them on that forum, block them on that group if they're trying to incite violence, absolutely. But those are things those are legal things, like, and then the company, but they're already not held liable. And so it essentially came down to, they were removing people for ideas they didn't like. and that's where it gets really dangerous because then you're controlling the public forum.
Yeah, and I think at a certain level, I think I think a company has their privileges to do that, like I said. But when it gets to that overarching level that the Amazon servers are, that's where I think it crosses the
Well,
line,
but
personally. But
I think where there's a difference between when you have a company that is controlling speech versus a company that has a good that they're providing or whatever, because there are definitely things that people can't discriminate based on as a company that are very regulated. But if we have a rule already on it, in that's what our country was based on, they're not regulating the company, they're just holding them to the same standard as everyone else in the country.
one thing I wanna caution people about a little bit, that I've seen a trend naturally during elections and controversial situations, especially politically, and is was something I want to bring up because we talked about Tim Pool. Because Tim Pool, if you guys start listening to him, he can become a little bit overwhelming as far as his conspiracy theories and his he releases a video like every like 2 hours, or I don't know what
Oh,
it
it's
is. It's like
insane.
multiple
It's
times a day.
crazy.
But there's a term that I would apply to Tim Pool. There's a term called apophenia. And apophenia is a tendency to perceive a connection or a pattern between objects or ideas that may or may not exist. So apophenia, like finding connections when really you might be
Yeah.
trying to connect a theory or a conspiracy, even if it's not there. So just be a
It's a
little careful when
mental
you're
it's
listening
like a
to
mental
Tim
version
Pool.
of hypochondriac.
Yeah, just be
So
careful with him.
one thing that I would say too that becomes a danger, and I think this is where Poland is getting it right. They're not saying this is how to run your company, but it was a quote for actually from Bill Barr, or not, yeah, Bill Barr, who quit from being the head of somewhere. I
Hmm.
can't remember now. It's not in my notes, but he was attorney general. That's what he was. So he quit, and they interviewed him and said, "What do you think about what the social media companies are doing?" And this was his. This is what he said, and this is where I would say it's dangerous to let them mute and get rid of people because you cause problems like this. And this is straight from him. They asked him about did Trump incite the violence? He goes, that's for someone else to decide. But this is he identified three things that he believes were a big problem, and he said it identified three factors that contributed to what many are now describing as an insurrection, stating, I don't know if I'd use the word inevitable, but I think when I start to suppress free speech, when people lose confidence in the media, and also when they lose faith in the integrity of the elections, you're going to have some people resort to violence. So he's saying, like, because we started doing that, we put ourselves in a dangerous place because people start to feel like they're not heard. And they start to make these connections and weirdness and then they react. And so he's saying like we have to be careful with these things, like which is true.
Yeah.
Like it's if do we let these companies just mute who they want to because they might actually give us riots in the streets.
Yeah, I see both sides. It's tricky. Um, I think that's most of the main things I got for this week, man. I just got some TILs and some showers. If you ready for hit those up.
I am. I actually
All
have a
right.
TIL this week.
Ooh, yeah, buddy. Okay, I got two, so I'll go first.
You go first. I have one.
All right. All right. All right.
All right, all right.
Today I learned that 4 high school students in the 70s are the reason we no longer have pay toilets in America. They were able to successfully lobby against the issue, and then 8 years later, pay toilets were all but non existent throughout the US. So at one time, public access toilets you had to pay for.
Yeah.
And that's what most of Europe is actually. Like if you go around Europe in a lot of areas, a lot of the public restrooms, especially in England, um, are you have to pay a fee to use the restroom.
Right.
Um,
Well,
so
I mean,
count your
technically,
blessings,
there is a
guys.
lot of places here. They're like, if you're not a customer, we don't have a bathroom for use.
No, but like rest stops,
That's true.
or like walking through the city.
True. They don't. They have lots
Anyways,
cleaner restrooms, though. I will say that. Some of ours here are pretty gross.
that's true.
You get what you pay
There's some
for.
pretty cool. There's some pretty cool like public pay for restrooms too. Like the
Mm-hmm.
entire restroom gets a shower after every use. It's pretty dope.
Yeah.
And there's also restrooms real quick. There's restrooms that are the windows can go black to clear. So if you're in there for too long, it gives you a warning, and then the windows will eventually go from black to clear. So everybody in there, if you stay in there for too long, basically it prevents people from sitting on the crapper for too long.
Amateur says, "Bless those four dudes."
Amen, brother. Amen, brother.
I think David says, "Thank goodness."
Yeah,
Oh
thank it.
my gosh.
All right, hit me with
Okay,
your TIL.
today I learned that Pope John Paul II liked Yoo-Hoo. During his visit to Denver, Colorado, he requested a couple cases he brought back with him. Because popes don't give commercial endorsements, which is weird, the
Hmm.
Vatican was forced to release a statement denying the Pope had a preference for American chocolate milk drinks.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
that's so silly.
that's
Made so much
ridiculous.
drama out of the chocolate milk.
That's stupid.
All right, so today I learned a majority of people Christopher Walken, the actor, interacted with as a child
Mm-hmm.
were non-native English speakers, and mainly his father. So Walken attributes his unique way he talks, halting, speak style to watching people hesitate to think of the right English word. So that's why he has that weird like
Or he watched a lot of
staggering
Star Trek the
comment.
original.
Yeah, well, Joe Dirt, Joe Dirt. Well,
Yeah.
that's what he's on. All right,
Oh,
shower thoughts.
shower
Do it.
thoughts. Okay.
Who's ready for shower thoughts, guys? Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Hit me.
even though Uber drivers drive a car all day, they walk to work.
That's good. I like that. Adulthood is when you don't care that some of your friends are multiple years younger than you.
It's true.
It's true.
If you don't pay taxes, you get sent to a place you don't have to pay taxes.
That's true. I think. I
Punishment
guess.
meets the crime.
Yeah. One day, we all just stopped printing directions from MapQuest and Google Maps without even realizing it.
It's true.
Can you like I totally remember the days of printing directions from Google
Oh,
Maps,
yeah.
don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, crap. Did you see what the milepost was back there? It said it's zero
Yeah.
0.4 miles to the next turn. Like, maybe we
Yeah.
should just try back.
It's a nightmare.
Oh, the odds of you dying at any moment are never zero.
True. Yeah. Okay. On that note, getting kicked in the nuts causes you to exhale with great force. So, it may be a very effective alternative to the Heimlich maneuver.
I bet it would work. I bet it would work. The ball kick maneuver.
Yeah.
Isn't it supposed to be
You're
it's
like you're going to
it
like
can't be
you're
called
going
that
to like
anymore, right? They can't call it
you're
that.
go
They have to call it the abdominal thrusts
No,
because
they
it
still call it
because
Heimlich.
no, but that was they can't use that in I've because I've taken the first aid class. They can't use that term anymore because it's been
I haven't heard
trademarked.
that. Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't heard that. But can you imagine going to like BLS classes and they're like, "All right, who's our volunteer for the kick maneuver?"
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Nope. Amador, he's like, nope,
Nope.
not gonna be that guy.
Not practice.
I'll. Oh my gosh, David, I'll choke.
I'll
Thanks.
choke. Touche.
uh,
All right, I got one more shot at that. What do you got?
I have three more. Tell
Okay, go for
someone
it.
you meditated for 2 hours and they are super impressed, but tell them you napped for 2 hours and suddenly you're lazy.
Very true. Very true. That's a good point. Okay, hit me with your next one.
Okay. People mostly use their driver's license to purchase something that inhibits their ability to drive.
Yeah, that's good. It's true. All right, I'll hit you with my last one.
Okay.
If a human developed the ability to selectively erase the memory of others, we wouldn't even know it.
Hmm?
So, like, if humans
No, I'm joking.
developed the
It was a joke because.
okay, touche.
Wait, what?
Ba-dum-tsh.
Looking at this.
Yeah, that's
Okay. Here's a good one. I hadn't thought about this, but this is really good. Texas was briefly a colony of France for 5 years, okay, in the late
Mm.
1600s. During those 5 years, Texas toast was also technically French toast.
Ooh, very good point. And if they ever made fried potatoes, technically they
French
were French
fries,
fries, right, guys?
now
Right?
called freedom fries.
Interesting. And if they ever had anything that they had to press down really hard, they
French
were French
press.
toasts.
Except we don't call that anything else. That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And we
All right,
still call
guys.
them French fries.
Delicious. Thank you so much for logging in. Thanks for your comments, guys. We appreciate y'all. We have a blast talking with y'all, and we're excited to next week. Well, next week there might Jordan and I have to talk. We might be on a different night. I have to talk to Jordan about that.
Oh,
Um,
do
but
we have a hot date that night?
do I
With
do?
the do you have with your one of your concubines?
No.
Shh. Shh.
I'm not pulling no Genghis Khan here. Um, But we love you all. We appreciate you all. Love all your comments,
Yeah.
and we will talk to you guys soon.
Yep.
Have a
See you
fantastic week.
guys. 8-8 in the bag.